Now, have you experienced moments of self-doubt? Are you crippled by mistakes that you've made at work and spend days feeling lousy about it? Now, I struggle with imposter syndrome myself. Now, in this video, I'm going to share with you the 5 tips to overcoming imposter syndrome coming up next. Hi, my name is Zoe, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. And in this channel, I share the things that I've learned. If this is what you're looking for, do consider subscribing. So what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is actually an internal experience thinking that you are not as competent as what others perceive you to be. Now, this has links with perfectionism as well as the social environment that you are in. For example, in a workplace, it's more likely that you will manifest the imposter syndrome as compared to being with family and friends. Now, although imposter syndrome is not recognized as a mental illness by the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Illness, it is actually a very common phenomenon. So in fact, they found that 70% of people have at least one episode of imposter syndrome in their lifetime. This could happen in a blind date, for example, in a new job role, or even when speaking in front of a large crowd. So what would imposter syndrome feel like? It can be self-doubt, it can be a fear of not being able to live up to expectation, it can be spending days and weeks lamenting on a mistake that you've made and not being able to forgive yourself. It could also be sabotaging your own performance or overachieving, being unable to realistically assess your own competence, always attributing your success to other factors. So for me personally, being unable to live up to expectations, spending way too much time faulting myself for my own mistake at work causes me a lot of anxiety. So do comment down below what is your form of imposter syndrome. So what's the difference between imposter syndrome versus self-doubt? Now, the difference really lies in the frequency. Imposter syndrome is usually one-off, temporary, and situational sort of experience. It is often related to a new job role, or maybe blind date, or even speaking in front of a large crowd. Whereas self-doubt is more persistent, it is nagging, it is often over a period of time. For example, Audrey Irvin, a psychologist from Delaware Valley University, says that adolescence, for example, is a period characterized by self-doubt. What causes imposter syndrome? Now, it could likely be due to several factors. Now, one of it could be personality, for example, being a perfectionist, whereas some researchers feel that it could be due to family background, especially a family that focuses more on achievements, or rather a family have low support but high conflict. Now, there are many tips that you can find to help you overcome imposter syndrome, but here are 5 tips that I find very useful for myself personally. So tip number 1 is to separate your feelings from facts. Now, we know that feelings are very fickle. They come and they go, and sometimes when we need the feelings, they're not there. So today you might feel competent, tomorrow you might feel incompetent. It has nothing to do with our actual competency level. So therefore, separate our feelings from facts because our feelings are very fickle. Tip number 2 is to focus on the positive. I find that having the right mindset to be very important, especially a positive mindset. So when I go onto the stage to deliver something, I will go with the mindset of being a fellow learner who is just sharing my experience. In no way am I an expert, but rather I hope that through my sharing, someone else will be able to benefit. And I find that having a positive mindset makes me less anxious. Tip number 3 is to have a healthy relationship with making mistakes and failures. I think most importantly is to see failure and mistakes as a part and process of growing, because without making mistakes, we are actually in our comfort zone, which also tells you that if you're not making mistakes, you are actually doing the same thing over and over again. Now, whenever we do something new, there are bound to be mistakes. Have a growth mindset to know that we are continually learning, because we will never reach the stage of expertise, because every time we reach one level, it is time to move on to another level. Now, tip number 4 is to be your own cheerleader. Now, I think if we can silence the cheers and the jeers of the world, and we focus on encouraging ourselves and not needing the affirmation from the people around, we need to question ourselves. Why do we feel that we have to live up to people's expectations? Is it because of our own pride? Is it because we feel the need to satisfy? Then in that case, we are only living up to someone's praises and trying to avoid any criticism. Now, tip number 5 is to fake it till we make it. Now, yes, we have heard this over and over again, but I find that this is also very powerful for me, because sometimes we overthink and we get crippled. So most importantly is to start moving. Take one step at a time. Things will become clearer, things will become better, rather than we get crippled by fear and just stay where we are. Because at the end of the day. Sometimes we have no choice. Despite our anxiety, we just have to do what needs to be done at work. Instead of thinking of the negative, we don't need to feel confident before we start moving because we know that feelings are fickle. Put away the thinking and just focus on the doing. Hope you found this video useful. If you do hit the like and subscribe button, and I hope to see you in the next video.